Welcome to Friday. It is Meet the Press Daily, and I'm Chuck Todd here in Washington, where the fence surrounding the Capitol that was put up after pro-Trump extremists stormed the building on January 6th is finally coming down. The dismantling of the fence is arguably the most symbolic change on Capitol Hill since the insurrection 6 months ago. But perhaps the more substantive change on Capitol Hill in the last 6 months since the deadly attack on the Capitol, the Republican Party has arguably gotten more radical and more committed to Trumpism, not less. On January 6th, North Carolina Senator Richard Burr said in a statement, "The president bears responsibility for today's events." He'd go on to convict him in the impeachment trial. South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham, a key Trump ally, said on the Senate floor that night, "Count me out, enough is enough." That lasted about 24 hours. And Education Secretary Betsy DeVos resigned from Trump's cabinet, writing, "This is an inflection point for me." That day did prove to be an inflection point for many in the Republican Party. But the turn they took was towards Trump rather than away. Just look at the primaries already shaping up for next year's midterm elections. Let's take Oklahoma. Trump loyalists, including the state party chair, are backing a primary challenge to reliably conservative sitting Senator James Lankford, who's also a practicing pastor, by the way. His sin? He refused to reject the electoral count on January 6th. In Ohio, the Republican primary to succeed retiring Senator Rob Portman has devolved into something of a race to the conspiratorial right and a contest to hug Trump the hardest. Candidate Josh Mandel repeatedly echoes Trump's lie that the November election was somehow stolen, and he uses his Twitter feed to traffic in MAGA-friendly issues, like calling sitting Republican Governor Mike DeWine a tyrant for his COVID leadership and burning a mask on camera. And newly announced candidate J.D. Vance had to completely backtrack on his past comments that were critical of Trump, even telling Time magazine, "Trump is the leader of this movement, and if I actually care about these people and the things I say I care about, I need to just suck it up and support him." And it's important to note, if blind loyalty to Trump wasn't a seeming prerequisite to run for election as a Republican, Senator Portman would have likely run for another term. But folks, to get elected, you don't have to just win a primary. You've got to win a general election in November, too. For Republicans running to the far right, they could win votes in the primary, but it could also lose votes in the general. And in a lot of places, if you can't at least be competitive with the independents, the folks that actually do sit in the middle of this electorate, you just can't win, period. Not in a place like Ohio, not in Texas. You might be able to pull it off in Oklahoma. But it takes a very specific set of circumstances to give Democrats a shot at any open seat in some of these places. Ohio, Oklahoma, you name it. Yet Republicans may actually be doing their best to create those opportunities for Democrats. Ultimately, losing elections may be the only thing that makes Republicans re-examine what they've allowed themselves to become.